That is Matthew Rocchio. That is not Brooke Grimsley.
What?
Matthew will bring you some what Doug Armstrong calls fancy numbers today. I'm Randy. It's great to have you with us. And Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Just don't tell LeBron.
How about those Redbirds? This is a homestand, baby. This is so you take 2 out of 3 from Philly. You take the opener against the Houston Astros. You know, back in the day when they were bad, they used to call them the Houston Lastros.
I like that.
Or the Disastros.
That's great, too.
That was always fun, too. But the Cardinals, they turned it kind of into a disaster last night, an 8-3 win for the Redbirds. And there's a lot of cool things happening with this ball club. Don't you think? It's a fun team to watch.
Absolutely, it's a fun team to watch. And I think the point here is that offense is fun to watch. And this is why leagues change their rules to give us more offense, because no matter what you want to say, I love a good pitching duel. I'll always remember, Carpenter versus Holiday, but day in, day out, I like watching a baseball team that scores a lot of runs. And so I'm not sure if Brant Brown is going to start producing his own, little Cardinals banded book and start passing it around and start a new Cardinals way or what have you. Replace George Kissel. I'm okay with it. If there's a Bible for Brant Brown, I'm
Bible.
I'm ready to read it. If there's some courses, get your kids on them, because the guy's got some kind of magic when it comes to hitting the baseball.
Yeah, he does. Brendan Donovan right now leading all of Major League Baseball with 25 hits. At the moment, he is 2 ahead of Kyle Tucker and Bryce Terang. So hits are a good thing. And he's second in batting average. He's at 391. His on-base percentage is well over 400. And they're still hitting him in the middle of the lineup, which is great. But I wonder if once things get to where they're going to be for the Cardinals, if Mason Wynn is hitting at the top of the lineup. And last year they started this way with Donovan leading off at first, and then he wound up hitting second. I wonder if Donovan might wind up, because I think he's the best all-around player, if he might wind up being their best number 2 hitter.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what he was doing in the 3-hole. Obviously, yesterday he was a little bit moved down in the lineup, goes 4 for 4, big day for him. At this point, he's just the ultimate utility player. I don't care what position he's playing. I don't care where he's at in the lineup. I just want Brendan Donovan playing as close to 162 as possible.
And I wouldn't be heartbroken if he would wind up being the regular second baseman. That position, and by the way, as we all know, Nolan Gorman has been out for a time, but that position is number 1, the Cardinals. For WAR, the number 1 second base position in all of baseball is your St. Louis Cardinals, and that is primarily because of Brendan Donovan. He's terrific offensively and defensively.
And, of course, Pedro Pajes.
Well, that's true. Yeah, when you have a 1,000 fielding percentage, that's going to increase your WAR. There's no doubt about it. So he's been great. Nolan Arenado has continued to hit well. A home run last night, hitting .316 on the season, .409 on base, .526 slug, .935 OPS, and that all-important OPS plus, 66% above average with .166. And Arenado just looks to be healthy. I wonder what it was last year. I wonder if it was a back or if it was a shoulder. Whatever it was, he wasn't himself last year. And we mentioned it on the radio that he just didn't look healthy. He looks like a healthy hitter that's swinging hard these days.
Yeah, I mean, the slugging percentage, I don't know how many times we had to talk about where his slugging percentage was last year. His only time in his career he's finished below 400. In fact, his career low going into that season was 434, and he had a 394 last year. That's an insane drop in slugging percentage. So for him to come out this season out of the gate and he's hitting the way he is, 316, 409 on base, 526 slug for a 935 OPS. You already threw out the OPS plus. That's just huge. And that's why kind of one of our prompts in the show today, and we'll get a poll started here on the YouTube, which is Sonny Gray, 3-0, 3.13 ERA, 23 strikeouts to 3 walks. In a .783 whip, a 130 ERA plus for Sonny Gray through his first 4 starts. Donny again sitting second in Major League Baseball in batting average, first in National League, MLB best, 25 hits. And then we just went over Nolan Arenado, those huge jumping numbers, getting him back to the hitter we know he can be. In fact, 166 OPS plus. He's not going to do that the whole season, but 150 OPS plus is his best career season. That was his first year with the Cardinals. So which one of those starts of the season is the most important to the Cardinals right now?
Well, ultimately, it's all going to come down to pitching, right? The reason that you were able to win last night and the reason that you've won 3 of your last 4 is because it doesn't matter how many runs you score as long as you get 1 when you don't allow any runs. And Palante didn't allow any runs. Liberatore didn't allow any runs, and last night Sonny Gray didn't allow any runs. And there are other people that are hitting. Early on, you had the great start for Victor Scott II, who's still providing decent offense, but we've already mentioned Donovan. You've got Contreras getting hot. You had Mason Wynn getting hot before he got hurt. Arenado and Donovan, the two guys we mentioned. Jordan Walker is hitting well. It seems like there's always somebody hitting. But if Sonny Gray's only giving you 2 1/3, then all of a sudden you've got major problems.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were getting to yesterday when you talk about the importance of, or maybe it wasn't yesterday. I'm days meld together. When you were talking about the importance of Mason Wynn, I was like, well, I don't know. Ryan Helsley, Sonny Gray might be even more important than a Mason Wynn, because to your point, if you don't have the pitching, then and this just goes back to what 5-6 games ago. If you don't have the pitching, you can't win games 9-8 every time, and that was the issue just a week ago. But now when the pitching's able to lock in like that, hold them to 3 runs, gets pretty easy.
And here's the other thing. With the injuries that the Cardinals have incurred, injuries and ineffectiveness at the minor league level, Tink Hence hurt, Cooper Zerpe hurt. Now you've got Quinn Matthews on the IL with a shoulder injury down in Memphis. Gray's presence becomes all the more important. One of the good problems the Cardinals have, it is a good problem, is that they have too many bats to get into the lineup on a regular basis. So if Brendan Donovan isn't there, all of a sudden bats open up for a guy like Alec Burleson or a guy like Nolan Gorman. No at-bats that would not be there. If Gray goes down, now you're supposed to start a 6-man rotation tomorrow with Steven Matz. If Gray isn't there, then all of a sudden you've got a 5-man rotation at the major league level, and down in the minors, McGreevy is kind of it. So you've got a lot less wiggle room if your starting pitching starts to incur some injuries up here at the major league level.
Yeah, that'd be problematic. Let's hit the chat here because we always love our chatters. Giovanni, Laurenti says contract for Brendan Donovan. You were throwing that as well. Hockey Dad Don says, do you think?
I'm not so sure that Brendan Donovan is really happy with the Cardinals. I don't know if they come to him right now, unless it's for an outrageous amount of money. I don't know that he would do a deal with them because of his experience with arbitration. And from what I understand, and I haven't talked to Brendan about this, but from what I understand, the Cardinals for years have told him, hey, the thing that'll make you the most valuable is to be a great utility guy. The more versatile you are, the more valuable you're going to be. So if you play second, if you play third, if you play short, if you play left field, that'll make you more valuable for us. Then they get into the arbitration hearing
and they say,
well, he's a utility player. He's not an everyday player. He's not that valuable. And he's sitting there in the hearing after they told him all this for years. This is what I'm given to understand. And so they tell him for years, yeah, this will make you more valuable. And then they go into the arbitration hearing and they say, well, he's not very valuable because he's a utility guy. So I don't know. And he kind of alluded to that, by the way, when he talked about that after his arbitration hearing. But I don't know how happy he is, and I don't know how enthralled he is with the business side of the organization right now.
I would completely understand that perspective, but here's where being the billion-dollar business helps. You're always the big stack bully at the table. And Brendan Donovan is in his 28 season, and he still has 2 more years of arbitration. He does not become a free agent until he's 31. So the amount of leverage you have on him of buying out those last 2 arbitration years and saying, here's a nice little contract because you're playing so well, you don't want to have to wait till you're 31 to cash in, because then you're cashing in one time. By the way, it's criminal. We've talked about this before. It's still criminal in baseball that a guy's cashing in one time in his career.
Yeah.
He said you find success at 25 years old, you grind for 3 years, and you're still 2 years away from being able to cash in. And at 31, because of just the way that the game works, you're going to cash in one time in your entire career on a free agent contract. That's ridiculous. And so they have leverage in that he might not be happy with the money. And so you can say, though, we can change your life.
And again, I'm given to understand that last year, Tommy Edman was kind of fed up with the organization.
I get that.
And he wasn't available to the Cardinals, and he wasn't going to play for them. So he found a way to force his way out of the organization to a team that had wanted him for 3 years. But as far as Donovan is concerned, yeah, if it's a ridiculous amount of money, you take it. And I want to touch on what you were just talking about. But think about this: you come out, you go to college, okay? Come out of when you're 21, get drafted when you're 21. Baseball has you in the minors for 6 years before you can become a minor league free agent. So they keep you in the minors for 5.5 years and then bring you up. So all of a sudden you're 27. Now they've got you for 6 more years before you become a major league free agent. So baseball could have you if you spend 3 years in college until you're 33 years old. If you spend an entire career in college, 34 years old, they can control you for 12 years without giving you an opportunity for free agency.
Which is why is Brendan Donovan going to say no to 4 for? I'm trying to think what would be a good number for him.
4 for 40.
4 for. I was honestly going to say 4 for 50. I was going to give him. I was going to give him 12.
Let's see what the Edmund. Let me check out what Tommy got.
Yeah, Tommy's,
because I think that's the better comp. Although Tommy does lead Major League Baseball in home runs, but Tommy with the Dodgers, he signed through 2030.
He got about 12 a year.
So
he got 5 for 74.
Yeah, so there you go.
So I think 4 for 50 would be completely. And if you're him. That's a completely different amount of money than you were looking at. You're making 2.85 this year. You can make over 10 a year for the next 5 years. That'd be hard to walk away from if I was him. And right now, considering what he's showing, considering the utility, considering what you're going to be able to do with him across just even a 36-year-old Brendan Donovan is going to be a useful player. And if not, it's only $12 million. That's good for everybody.
I wonder also if agents are waiting to see what Chaim Bloom is like as a GM here in St. Louis.
That's fair.
What's that going to look like? And if you're the Cardinals, before you sign a guy like that, you probably have to go to Chaim and say, look, do you want this guy for 4 years and $50 million? That's a question that has to be answered. Eric Cleveland, our buddy, says, Randy, how many big leaguers that are worth those kind of contracts spend 6 years in the minors? Not many. I'm not talking about the size of the contract. I'm just talking about the level of control because of the CBA that teams have over players. I met a guy. I played golf with a guy from the St. Louis area that ran into that exact situation. He was a pitcher. He developed late, and he got called up to Oakland in his 6th year. And then he was, by this point, I think he was in his 4th year of Major League Baseball with a different organization, but it had been 10 years and he hadn't had the opportunity to experience free agency yet. And he was 31.
To your point, Matt Koperniak was drafted out of Trinity College in 2020. So that was 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And he's 27 years old, just turned 27.
Never spent a
so
day
again,
in the majors.
4 years of college, 5 years in the minors, 27 years old. If he gets called up, 6 years of control. So, and again, I'm not sure if Eric Cleveland was one of the people who was harping a lot about Matt Koperniak, but we had a lot of people in our chat talking about this guy needs a chance. Even if he would have gotten the chance, and to everyone's point, he's hit really well at the minors, so he deserves a chance. Even if he gets the chance, he's cashing in one time at 33 years old.
Right.
And so that's just insane. And we hear stories. Yes, it's a minute amount of people. You're not wrong there, Eric Cleveland, but we hear stories like this across all sports. One of my favorite ones is Cameron Wake, the defensive end who was up in the CFL, who didn't hit the NFL until he was like 28. But because the way the NFL works, he cashed in at like 31 and then again at 33. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that kind of flexibility allowed a guy with just a small window to cash in multiple times because he eventually broke through.
And on Immaculate Grid Football, when there's 10 plus sacks with the Dolphins, Jason Taylor just seems so obvious. Yep. So I go Cameron Wake a lot. Love that. AJ Dewey never had 10 sacks in an NFL season. I tried that one time, didn't work out. But yeah, Cameron Wake is a guy to try, but a lot of people remember his 10 plus sack season. Cronky Hater, by the way, we're kindred spirits. You played golf with me, Randall. How was I? Chat back and say, was I a moderately decent golfer? Here's my goal, kids, in golf. I have been woefully mediocre for many years. My goal is to get to mediocre without the woefully in front of it. So
there you go.
Cronky Hater, you need to, and he's, by the way, he gets, I heard the other day from a source that he is supposed to invite me out to play golf at the club because he's a member.
I need to. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So. I thought you were going to tell like one of my golf horror stories.
Oh, no.
Was going to come up. No, I saw a beautiful quote yesterday about golf, and it was just like, and it was encapsulating something I talked about on the show a few weeks ago, which is the thing about golf that's crazy when you're watching a golfer struggle is that there is no depth of how bad it can get. No. Whereas in every other sport, there is a depth of how bad it can get. Like I'm saying, LeBron James isn't throwing the ball while shooting a free throw into the stands. But as golf, you can essentially do what is comparative to throwing the ball into the stands while taking a free throw with how bad you get. And so there is no depth to how bad a golf game can get. And that's just oh, that game screws with my brain.
And with every other sport, there is a time clock where it's eventually going to end for you.
Yes, true.
Golf, you got to put that ball in the hole on number 18. That's when it ends. So it can be horrible. And here's another thing. Think about this. Bryson DeChambeau, we're getting off track here, but we'll get back in a second. Bryson DeChambeau shoots a 75 the other day, and it was terrible. 75 would like make my life. I could die and go to heaven with a 75. I would be so thrilled. And it's a disaster for Bryson DeChambeau.
You want to make something really make you really mad? I know somebody right now who's trying not to have too big of a handicap, or too small of a handicap, I should say. And they
games.
And
sandbagging, huh?
Well, not sandbagging, but they haven't played in a very long time, and so all their scores from a long time ago are still count towards their handicap. So like, I can't be playing this kind of handicap, and then they get mad when they shoot 40 on the front nine.
Oh,
and you're just like, how dare you get mad about that?
Yeah.
And we had a chat in here. I was just checking this out, by the way. We're talking about the Brendan Donovan stuff. Great point here by let's turn to look at Yaz in San Francisco. Will be a first-time free agent at 35. And yeah, that's a great point. I was just looking at his Spotrac page, and yeah, he avoided arbitration this year and got $9.25 million. But yes, Mike Yastrzemski's hitting his first major league free agency at 35 years old. Unbelievable.
That's amazing. Cronky hater, I know who you are. Also, Eric points out 75 at Augusta, right? 75 at Augusta from the Pro Tees. Yeah, so that's pretty good. So let's move on with the Cardinals, because right now they're playing well enough to be a team. And I don't think that they're going to play well for 6 months. Let me preface my comments by pointing this out. But right now, as we speak, when you beat Philadelphia and when you beat Houston, this is at home before they go on the road to take on the Mets and the Braves. They can play with anybody right now. They can hit against anybody at home, because anybody is Philadelphia and Houston and Framber Valdez. And they obviously can pitch. When you can hold down a lineup like Philadelphia they did all weekend, you can pitch with anybody. This is as we speak. I don't know if this is long term, but that's another part of what makes this fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess all we have to worry about is the bad pitchers. As you were pointing out to me yesterday, the names of the pitchers that they lost to prior to the weekend, and the names of the pitchers that they're running through, like Wheeler and now Framber Valdez.
It's 7 games.
It's ridiculous the way they still play down to the pitching.
It's great.
It's absolutely insane.
I don't know if we did this on the show yesterday, but I'll do it now, just so that if you weren't tuned in yesterday, you'll be able to participate. And know this when you go to the water cooler if you at work, or maybe in the kitchen today if you're working from home. So last 7 games the Cardinals have played. The games that they've lost, the starters were Carmen Mlodzinski, Mitch Keller, and Christopher Sanchez. Last 4 games they've won: Paul Skeens, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and Framber Valdez. That's baseball, isn't it?
Paul Skeens, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and Framber Valdez. Those are the last 4 pitchers. That's insane. But to your point, it shows that they can hit the ball against anybody. And if you have Sonny Gray working like this, if Matthew Liberatore continues to build on his profile as a starter, from what we've seen, yeah, you can play with almost anyone, and that's honestly pretty surprising. Bill Downton comes here in the chat and says, question, if Arenado not moved, do you block Weatherholt but signing Donovan, or where does he play? I'm sorry, Bill. I wanted to get that one on there because I liked you bringing up Arenado, but I'm a little bit confused what you were trying to say. By the way, the poll that I put out, which hot start is most important for the Cardinals? Nolan Arenado winning right now with 42% of the poll, 31% to Brendan Donovan, and 27% to Sonny Gray. I didn't want to ask you, Randy Karraker, because I threw out the numbers for Sonny Gray. All of them are fantastic. His FIP, I will say, because we're being nerds here, his FIP is worse than last year. But, who cares about defense? See,
that's FIP, fielding independent. If you're my age, or if you just want to Google the king in his court. So there was a softball pitcher who would pitch, and he would just have his fielders sit down because he didn't need them. So that's basically fielding independent. So if you strike everybody out, your FIP is going to be pretty darn good.
Gray through 4 starts. Right? Yes. Gray through 4 starts, 3-0, 3.13 ERA, 23 strikeouts to 3 walks, 4 home runs allowed, 0.783 WHIP, and a 1.30 ERA plus. You have not. I think saying you've been critical of Sonny Gray, it would be unfair.
Yeah, he's not he's not a number one.
You've been honest about your assessment of that.
Is he at his best? has he ever been a Chris Carpenter, a Max Scherzer, a Justin Verlander,
No.
a guy that you would want to start game one of a Roy Halladay, the late great Roy Halladay, a guy that you would want to start game one of a postseason series?
Have these 4 starts etched into that opinion of yours at all?
Now, I never judge any player on 4 games ever.
Fair enough.
Never. So that's I'm a years guy and a careers guy. I'm not necessarily a month guy.
I will say if you do like the advanced stats, the 130 ERA plus good for Sonny Gray, but ERA pluses of 155 in his last year in Minnesota, 150 in his one of his years in Oakland as well. So putting up good numbers, but not exactly the mow down starter that we saw at times when everyone wanted to push him up there. But 3 or 4 pretty good starts and a 3-0 beginning with him is pretty good.
Yeah, and
I'll take it.
Hey, you take 7 shutout innings, right? He was magnificent last night, and that's the thing is he can be sensational, but he can also be a guy that will break your heart. The question, by the way, that we had up there: if Arenado is not traded, then Weatherholt has to play second. Then where does Donny play ultimately? I would think that they'll try to move Arenado out of here. Weatherholt is probably a year away. He may be up at the end of this year, but I doubt they would start the clock at the end of the year. So you're probably looking at 26 for Weatherholt, and so many things can change with regard to injury and with regard to trades and what you need. You can never have too many good players, and it might turn out that Weatherholt is a really good player, but the Cardinals need that chip to go get something really, really good, like Sandy Alcantara or something like that.
Yeah, I'd take that. Yeah, I think pushing Weatherholt, you don't need to do that. The fact that they started him where they started him already says what they think about him. But at this point, there's no reason to just rush it, especially since, like you're saying, and as you're pointing out, Bill, the math and the where everyone goes doesn't really work right now. Because I mean, my thought process when you ask the question is Brendan Donovan eventually is like in left field. And it just is filling in at second base,
he's such
third
a good
base.
second baseman.
Yeah, he is such a good second baseman.
But I hate to waste that talent because I presume that Newbar is going to be around for a while.
I also have a problem where I pretty much get to the point where if you tell me a player is like a solid athlete and you're trying to figure out a way to get their bat in there, my brain always just goes to, why can't he play left field?
Right.
So like my thought is if Brendan Donovan's such a good second baseman and we're really worried about getting JJ Weatherholt's bat in the lineup eventually, why can't JJ Weatherholt play left field?
He could.
Am I crazy?
Yeah.
I probably have a problem, but my default is always, can't that guy just play left field? And in fact, we had a chat earlier where someone was saying, not chat, actually it was a Facebook comment on yesterday's video where someone was like, why can't the Cardinals get Ivan Herrera up and play in left field?
Well, see, now that is one thing that I would look at because I'm a big believer that your guys on the corners should have pop. Left, right field, third base, first base. I think all of those guys should hit for power. And I don't know that Weatherholt is going to be a power hitter. And by the way, we should mention Jordan Walker's start here. 744 OPS, 2 homers, only 6 RBIs. But he's coming along. His batting average is up. His OBP is up. His slug is up. His OPS is up. And even his OPS plus is up. So I think all of those things are things that we should look at and think that he is on an upward trajectory.
I agree with the upward trajectory, but am I allowed to still be a little bit worried about the runners in scoring position numbers where he's batting below 200 and the slugging percentage numbers? I'm not sure what it's at, but with the 2 home runs, I think he's only at like
400 right now.
Yeah, it's 400 even, which again, we were talking about how last year with Nolan Arenado slugging 394 was terrible. So relative, you want to see more from Jordan Walker, and he's making better contact. And we haven't heard anything from the organization where they're, calling, where there's alarms going off about his launch angle or anything like that. So I want to be positive about Jordan Walker. I have been the entire season. He's been one of the bright spots, but I do wonder, is there a point where we start saying, okay, the tertiary stuff's happening, but the big things that we need Jordan Walker to be, which is a middle of the order hitter who drives and runs and a power hitter, those things still aren't materializing the way you want them to see.
I think after might be a little bit premature.
Yeah, I think so.
For a guy that next month is going to turn 23. Let me just give you some numbers for another 23-year-old hitter. 255, 330 on base, 448 slug, 777 OPS. This is for a 23-year-old AA and AAA player by the name of Aaron Judge.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So who a couple of years later made his major league debut. So it's 23 might be a little bit premature to be worrying about where Jordan Walker's tertiary numbers are.
All right, that's very fair. I'm just saying, and Chris Widener's saying it too. Jordan is young. Took Judge a while to become a superstar. Man, Chris was up on that before you were up on that, which is pretty good. Giovanni Laurenti saying he's hitting 273 and an OPS of 744, which is good. Listen, this is insane. I try to be a little positive about Jordan Walker 2 weeks ago, and everyone's climbing down my throat because I'm trying to argue that he's not a bust. Here, I try to just throw a little honest skepticism out there, just a little bit of, hey, let's pump the brakes. There's something here. And now everyone's like, what are you doing, Rock?
He and
good Lord,
in terms of their major league experience and their chronological age, he and Nolan Gorman are babies. They're just so young. I don't think it's fair to judge them at this stage. By the way, I can give you if you want. Here's another 23-year-old 742 OPS. Batting average, high batting average, 343, high on base, but that's a 22-year-old Yordan Alvarez for Round Rock.
Fine. You guys want a little blind positivity? Nolan Gorman has cut his strikeout percentage in half this season.
What is that? Like 18% or something?
16% actually.
Oh, nice. He was 37 last
year. He was 37 last year, and his career low is 31
so
coming into the season. So
there's a lot to like about what Brant Brown is bringing to the Cardinals. And I think one of the things that the Cardinals needed to do, especially with Walker, not necessarily with Gorman, but they went to Jordan and they said, look, you be you. We aren't going to mess around with you anymore. And they're just going to let him grow as a hitter. If he winds up being Matt Holliday or Jack Clark, so be it. But if they want the Mark McGwire type launch angle, that can be fine too. But the guy hits the ball so hard, he can be a really good hitter, even if he doesn't have that outrageous launch angle.
Yeah, I agree. And we always go back to the Matt Carpenter thing or Matt Holliday thing. And maybe that goes back to your JJ Weatherholt idea of just, if you're just banging it off the wall, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
You're just ripping it off the wall. We'll live with that all day long.
Yep. No doubt about it. We've got Cards Hub 365 this afternoon here on Sports Hub STL. Mike Claiborne will be joined by Stephen Carey. And there it is, Cards Up 365 this afternoon and 1 o'clock pregame. After the game, we've got you as well for all of the Cardinal reaction. We want you to be here at Sports Hub STL. And joining us now here on the Randy Karraker Show, Brooke Grimsley out at the doctor today, Matthew Rocchio in, the one, the only, Mike Claiborne, our colleague here at Sports Hub STL. There he is. How you doing, man?
How are you? How are you? How are you? All good on this end.
Everything is good. We're
okay.
Claibs, you've been with the Cardinals now for many years, and we've seen a lot of fun baseball, but we've seen a lot of boring baseball. Maybe this is just because of what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. I'm really having fun watching this team. What do you think as you watch them every night?
Yeah, I'm kind of like you with Randy. I've seen some clunkers. There's no doubt about that. But the energy, the excitement, guys, whether you're stealing a base or going from first to third or going from first to home, good solid play in the outfield. It's interesting. We haven't heard much discussion on whether Jordan Walker could play the outfield anymore. He's making a lot of plays out there that I think last year and the year before would have been a little bit more of an adventure. So with that said, and the fact that you have pitchers that are throwing strikes, and I love strikes, I think this is why we find this team to be more intriguing than maybe what we witnessed in the last few years.
Claibs, you're talking about Jordan Walker's defense, and we were just talking about Jordan Walker's offense. And obviously last year, it just seemed like no matter what was happening, there was always some kind of conversation around Jordan Walker, nitpicking whether it was the defense, to your point, or the launch angle stuff early on. I guess my question would be, what is the reaction you're hearing inside of Busch Stadium about the start he's had to the season so far? And the fact that, to your point, defense is more solid and the offensive numbers are trending upwards.
Well, they always want more, Matt. Why isn't he hitting 500-foot home runs? I mean, there's always something. I really look at him being a guy that has really tried to perfect the basics of the game, and he keeps working on that physically. He may have I'm not going to say, man, he has the best throwing arm in the outfield, period. And he's doing a lot of little things that I think makes him a more effective hitter. He has a better two-strike approach than what we've seen in the past. The power will come. I think we get caught up into that a lot. Home runs, as Brant Brown would say, home runs aren't hit, they're pitched. And, once he gets in that realm where teams will start to challenge him more, I think you're going to see him maybe swing for the fences or at least try and find the gaps more. So, I like his direction. He's a young guy with a couple of years of experience on him now. And maybe this is the time where he starts to turn the corner. As I remind everybody, this is only April 15th.
Claibs, one of the comps I made, and I just made it a few minutes ago, he, from a hitting standpoint, there's a lot of Jack Clark there.
Quick. Yeah, I can see a little bit of that. Yeah. His bat isn't as quick as Clark's, but, he has that sound that comes off his bat to let you know it's been hit. He's such a big player. He's the biggest Cardinal to ever put a uniform on.
Wow.
I mean, he's 6'6.5". He's 260. And we're not talking about chubby. We're talking about a guy who's now chiseled. And when you think about that, you say to yourself, well, how is he going to hit for power? Well, I think he's going to have that natural power once he makes contact and once he gets a good level balanced swing. The power and the home runs will come. But he's a guy that I think that, and here's the other thing I think is important. Who hits behind him? Because if he has a guy that's hitting behind him, that means they had to pitch to Walker, then he's going to see a lot more pitches to his liking. And that's something I'm looking forward to seeing. But right now, it doesn't make a difference who's hitting behind. Everybody's hitting on this ball club right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I want you to take us inside the radio booth on Sunday. I was telling people I could not, I was planning on going out and doing stuff on Sunday, but I couldn't pull myself away from the Masters. So I would say, okay, one more hole. And then Rory had finished another hole. Okay, one more hole. So what was it like up in the radio booth? What were you watching?
I had one eye on the Masters. And it got off to one of those starts for Rory. I thought, he's going to run away with this. And then all of a sudden the runaway caught up to him. It was fun. And I think because it was Rory, we probably paid more attention because he's the last guy of that generation of players, whether it was Phil or Tiger or, we had a couple other guys that had a cup of coffee, but Rory's always been there. And, he hasn't stepped in it. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't been a person that people don't like. And you really openly root for him. In the way he was able to handle himself on Sunday, I think just about everybody, with the exception of Bryson DeChambeau, probably was happy for him.
What's interesting is you mentioned a cup of coffee. And I was thinking about this during the tournament the other day, how Dustin Johnson's trip to live has just rendered him completely irrelevant.
Randy, there's a whole bunch, there's a whole list of those guys that are basically on milk cartons. And I know they talk about maybe they can put this thing together. I'm not sure if some of these guys will recover. The money has something to do with it. I think the infrequency has something to do with it, of them playing 54 holes.
Yep.
That has an impact. And I would wonder, what is the motivation? You had a couple $100 million in the bank, man. And, why do you want to expand your tour? So I don't know how this is going to shake out. We may have some guys that we just take a deep breath and say, but I remember when he used to be.
Yep.
And, you fill in the blank.
Says a lot that the one live guy who is still competing is just a psychopath. And I say that with a lot of respect to Bryson, because he's finishing rounds and then he's immediately going back to the range and hitting another couple hundred balls. He's apparently hitting 400 balls in his warm up. And somebody was tracking him and they were saying shot 250 is exactly where shot 200 was. And it's exactly where shot 400 is. That guy's an absolute animal, but I have to think he's breaking down, to your point, because he's not used to just actually playing the rounds all the way through Sunday.
Hey, listen, we can go out slow the balls, okay? And I don't know if it's going to make us any difference when competition rolls around. I'm one of those that feels like sometimes you leave your best game, whether it's in the batting cage or on the driving range. I think you leave it there because we are so obsessed in society of sport. More is better. Hey, you're not going to be any good unless you take 500 jump shots a day. Well, you might take 500 jump shots, but they may be wrong. Your mechanics may be off. You may not have the focus. So I think quality, exceeds quantity in that situation. And I don't know if this helps Bryson or not. Maybe it's more mentally where he feels like he's accomplished something. But I'm not sure if there's anyone out there that hits that many balls. Vijay Singh was a guy who was, committed to the range. But most of those guys, I think they do it because they see the other guy doing it and they think it makes them better. it's almost like going back to the days when somebody found out Dick Vermeil was sleeping on the couch in his office when he was coaching the Eagles. Everybody went out and got a certain sleeper. I mean, it was one of those things. And the only one who didn't was Gene Stallings. Gene Stallings like, no, we're gonna get it done before 7:30. We'll meet at 7:30 and everybody be home with their family. Obviously, the game has changed, and I'm surprised that with technology and all the information and all the quality assistance that these teams have, there's no reason for a guy to spend the night in a facility anymore.
If I can't get my staff home by 6:30 for dinner, we ain't gonna get it done.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the greatest, man. One of the greatest.
Oh, we were talking. Bernie was on Friday, and we were talking about Coach Stallings, and just isn't it amazing how a guy, and he didn't win here, but a guy could have such an incredible impact on a community that he had in 2 years, 86 and 87, before the team left. He had a remarkable impact on so many people over the course of 2 years. Gene Stallings.
I'm going to give you 4 coaches that'll always be popular in St. Louis. Vermeil, Martz, Don Coryell, and Gene Stallings.
Mm-hmm.
You can put all the rest of them in the backseat of a bus and nobody say, oh, yeah, he was here too. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's just the impact that he had. He taught the game. Jim Hanifan. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jim Hanifan. Hanny was and Randy, you know, he taught you and me more football than any other coach at that time. And he taught us how to have a good time as well. But I would put him in that category as well.
He was my all-time, in terms of just being a human. Hanny was as good as it got. And Claibs, you know this, when Joe Gibbs put together his staff in Washington, he tried to take Jim Hanifan along with him, and Hanny ultimately wound up with the staff here and wound up taking over as the head coach. He had joined Don Coryell in San Diego. But when Joe Gibbs lost his offensive line coach, Joe Bugle, to become head coach of the Cardinals, Hanny shows up in Washington. And so that whole staff is there. It's Wayne Sevier, it's Jim Hanifan, it's obviously Gibbs as a head coach. Basically, that staff had been here as the Cardinals staff. That's under incredible. Don Coryell. And so I had maintained contact with Hanny, and that 91 season, if the greatest show on turf wasn't the best team ever, the 91 Washington Redskins were. And every week I would call Hanny and say, hey, can I get tickets? So I just kind of traveled around and followed that team. I was probably at 9 or 10 of their games, and Hanny always took care of me. He was just such a great human being. And he would call and say, hey, you need tickets for the game? And I said, no, I'm not going to be made. But he, you know, just an individual. He was just a great individual, and he loved people.
One of my favorite people in sports. And we all have multiple Hanny stories, but to go one step further on Hanny, and you mentioned some of those other good coaches, at what point is the NFL or pro football in their Hall of Fame going to do a couple of things? Start looking at what these assistant coaches mean and what they meant to this game. There's a lot of guys that they take their wares wherever they go, and all of a sudden that team is better. And they're coaches, players who speak by them. And I just wonder, you know, they have a hard enough time trying to figure out whether Torrey Holt should be in or not, and some other guys. And Torrey Holt's not by himself. There's some other guys that probably you look around in those cities and they'll tell you, yeah, he was really good. But at some point, they've got to find a category for assistant coaches, because we're losing a lot of the guys who really had an impact on the game.
Well, Hanny changed the way offensive line is played in the NFL, and Mike Martz is the reason that we have the game that we have today.
Yes.
So 2 of them locally we have, plus Sergeant Rock.
And I would argue
Boyd Peters.
And I'd argue on the other side, you could
now you're dating yourself now.
You could lock in Jim Johnson and Monty Kiffin for the way that the NFL plays defense today as well.
No doubt.
Well, I know Mike Martz always thought a lot of Jim Johnson going up against him. And there's some other guys out there that have found their way. But I just don't think they get enough credit. And, you know, and I think you can look at every sport and what the assistant coaches mean and why someone hasn't thought about that. I mean, head coaches get a lot of glory and deservedly so. But, man, there's a lot of assistants, man, that have had an impact on individual players that should be recognized.
Hey, Claibs, there's no way that Steve Spagnuolo will ever make it to the Hall of Fame as a head coach. But Steve
Spagnuolo's got a seat at the table
right?
Exactly. And you know what? He did it with different people, and I think that's the key. you can be on a gravy train. I'm probably a better coach if I have Lawrence Taylor on defense.
Hey,
but you look at Parcells, wherever Parcells went, he found a player that he could put in that role. And I think that's the key to one of these coaches, being able to take whatever he has, his skill set, recognizing what he has, and then adapting to what he has and coaching up somebody, which becomes contagious. And all of a sudden you have a really good unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we in St. Louis, because of guys like Jim Hanifan, but also when you look at baseball and the fact that our chat, every time we talk about pitching, we get spammed immediately with 50 messages about how if the Cardinals just had Dave Duncan, everything would be okay. And so I think we're preaching a little bit to the choir, because in St. Louis, we've had such legendary assistant coaches and coaches who have just had such an impact on the game. Go back to Coryell, obviously in the Hall of Fame, but just seeing the way that the modern game was built step by step, from the offensive line to the Air Coryell offense, and then the greatest show on turf. We appreciate that kind of stuff here. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people in the chat would be very much for all kinds of assistant coaches being honored by their sports, whether it be baseball, football, or what have you.
Yeah,
hey, Claibs, we need to
Sid Gilman on that as well, as far as football.
Oh, yeah,
That's a
great call. We need to ask your concern level about the 2025 St. Louis Blues. Concerned?
No, they've worked too hard to get to this point. They'll go out and handle their business. Now Utah, they don't have anything to play for. Those are the dangerous teams.
Yeah.
But I think the Blues have enough guys in that room that understand, hey, we work really hard, man, since the Four Nations. And we decide our own fate. It's in our building. We'll have a big crowd. And let's just go out and win the period. And then next thing you know, we win 2 more, we can win the game. I think it's going to be a very festive night at Enterprise, especially if they get pop home a couple early.
Yeah. Oh, then it'll be a festival, all right. No doubt about it. I'm looking forward to that. Hey, I want to tell one more Hanny story, and I think I've told you this one. So when Dick Vermeil got the job, he brought in like a staff that included 5 former head coaches. Frank Gantz had been a head coach. Mike White had been a head coach.
What do we call the Magnificent Seven?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dick Corey was the wide receivers coach. He'd been a USFL head coach. Bud Carson was there.
Yeah.
So, and Hanny, first day on the job, I'm there. It might have been the day that they had the press conference. How often do you have a press conference to introduce an assistant coach? But Hanny is such an icon in this town. So Hanny is taking me around to all of these former head coaches who didn't know me from Adam. And he's saying, hey, I've known this guy since he was this tall, and puts his hand out like 3 feet. He says, this is a good guy. You take care of him. So that I had instant credibility with those players or those coaches because Jim Hanifan had such credibility with those guys. And
I had the same thing. He did it for me, Randy, and he let me come watch film with him, and watching film with him and then watching it with somebody on the defensive side. I got more out of that than anything I've done in the years I've been in the business.
Yeah. And you know, what was fun is, and he did this with Orlando. I don't know if Orlando appreciated it. Every single offensive lineman that he had, whether it was Joe Jacoby or Jim Lachey or Orlando or Fred Miller, he showed him Dan Deerdorf tape. And because Deerdorf was the consummate, the quintessential technician at tackle. And that I'm sure you saw the same thing, right? You guys see number 72 out there at right tackle.
Fundamentally as sound as any player that played the position.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Those were
I know because of his size, he couldn't play it now. But I'd move him inside the guard, and I guarantee you this, he'd be the best guard in the game.
Yeah. When Dan, towards the end of his career, Dan was over 300 pounds. Dan and Art Shell were the only 2 300-pounders in the whole league.
That's insane.
Isn't that unbelievable?
They don't even look at you. I was looking at the championship game in college football. The smallest guy on either team was 315 pounds.
Mike, you don't have guys in their 200s on high school teams anymore.
No, it's crazy, man. And I know they think more is better. I don't know about that. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have some good footwork to go along with the girth and all the other things you need to have fundamentally in order to be successful.
If you're a parent that has a youngster that plays the offensive line, go on Amazon and look for Jim Hanifan's book. I think it's called Offensive Line Play. And you just have your young person, not little anymore, go through Hanny's book about offensive line play, and
still applies. Still applies today.
Yep. And then if you want to talk about how it still applies today, go watch a bunch of Jason Kelsey tape.
Yeah,
because he played 10, 15 pounds underweight his entire career, and footwork is what helped him immensely throughout his entire career.
Claibs, do you see the bottom of the screen here where it says Cardinals broadcaster, Sports Hub, STL Don Mike Claiborne joins the show?
Wait a minute, let me put my ring on. Somebody can kiss it.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
That's pretty awesome.
What did Michael's wife, she asked him, you can only ask me about my business once.
There you go.
Are you get a picture?
No.
We just need to get Claibs in the Cardinals booth and just slowly closing the door with everyone in the background. Just that last shot of the Godfather.
Yeah. Now, all right. So, what's your best Godfather moment?
Oh, for me, it's got to be the baptism scene. It's incredible because
we had a lot of family business that day.
Yeah, we're gonna end all family business, and then just the scenes of just the way they shot it with the interspersing of the do you reject Satan? I do. Mo Green gets popped. It's the baptism scene 100%. It's got to be.
Oh man, is there anything more alarming or disturbing than the horse head though?
Well, see, this is where I'm going.
Good.
Once he's finished screaming in the bed, they cut to Marlon Brando, and he's just sitting there. He raises his eyebrows like, okay, you're not too tired, are you, Tom? And they just move on to something else. The guy just killed $100,000 horse, and Brando's it was a deadpan expression, and I don't know why I get a kick out of that. but that it's one of the few movies that if you haven't watched it, then I have concern for you. B, if you want to date me, you really need to find out what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And C, when it's on, I watch it as if I've never seen it before. I stop what I'm doing and watch it, and that's the gold standard for me.
Yeah. By the way, the name of the Jim Hanifan offensive line book is Offensive Line Play. Very simple. And it's great.
Took a lot of time trying to figure that one out.
Yeah. The problem right now is that there's one available apparently in America, and it's $179 on Amazon.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's worth it. You get the $52 million contract.
I'm surprised nobody put that back in print, just like the Bill Walsh book, which is one of my favorite books for football. I read it every year right before football season. And I don't know if you guys have ever read it. It's a thick read, but it's a very detailed read.
Claibs, let's before we let you go, let's talk about this because we're talking about Jim Hanifan, part of Bill Walsh's book. He was ready to quit after the strike in '82. Yep. He was going to retire. He was going to leave football. He'd won a Super Bowl. He was tired of it. And who talks Bill Walsh into staying in the NFL and keeping coaching?
Hey, Bill, what are you doing? You can't be doing that. Holy Christ. Hanifan was convincing, man.
Walsh was ready to walk out the door.
And here's the one I always remind people of. Jim Hanifan led the country in receiving in 1957 at Cal. Yeah. And then you look at him, you think him, but I mean, first of all, he went to Cal, and at Cal at that time, you had to be a pretty smart guy. Mm-hmm. I know a couple of people who went there since then. And I know they weren't smart, but they got in. But that's another story for another day. But he played Army. He played in the Army while he was there, and that's how he met Don Coryell. And the stories go on and on about the impact he's had on people in football and in life.
Yeah. Oh, he's such an impact. Did you ever hear about how, and I didn't realize this until Dan Deerdorf told me, how mad Tom Landry got because with that flex defense, they would line up a yard and a half off the ball. Mm-hmm. And the Cardinal offensive lineman would just blast off the ball and just obliterate the Cowboys defensive lineman. And Tom Landry thought they were cheating.
Hey, by the way, this is a defensive line that had Randy White and Bob Lilly, two Hall of Famers, at one point were playing defensive tackle on that team. Ed Jones, Harvey Martz, they had some really, really good players. But you can't give an offensive lineman that first step of momentum and you see what happens today. Guy gets the first step and he's done. And that was a really good defense too, by the way. I don't know why we haven't seen a variation of it. Maybe the fact that they don't want to give a guy that first step. But man, other than the Cardinals, man, that flex defense would really make you think. And it was something you didn't see every Sunday, so you had to practice for it a lot more. You take away from something else you had to do.
Yeah. I love doing story time with Claibs. This is fun stuff.
We'll do this, man. We'll make it a regular. Once Brooks has the blessed event, I'll make it my business to come in, or we'll do this and we'll just find about 3-4 subjects, or have our viewers send in a couple of things they'd like us to talk about.
I can't wait. Okay, we got to tell one more because this is fun and I love this. And it's been 40 years. So if you aren't aware of it, back in the day, Bob Gibson used to do post-game open line on KMOX after the Cardinals game. And most nights, Claibs was the co-host. I'll never forget this. A guy calls in and says, yeah, Bob, I'm 28 years old and I play in a men's league and I throw about 98 miles an hour. How can I get pro baseball interested in me? And Bob Gibson says, you know what? You just go throw as hard as you can until your arm falls off, because at 28, nobody cares about you anyway.
Man,
you just go throw as hard as you want. You throw that 98 for as long as you want. And if your arm falls off, it's no big deal because nobody cares.
The things he would say, that just, I was watching After Jackie today. It was on the History Channel. And they interviewed him a few times in that, and just looking at him and thinking about all those stories between he and Mike Shannon. I remember one night Hanny came in and sat with Mike, and that was a night that everybody took a deep breath on. And there was another story about when Jim was coaching in Atlanta. Mike showed up at his house at like 5:30 in the morning, looking for him to go fishing. And Mariana answered the door. She said, "Where is he?" He said, "Well, he just left for the office." He said, "Well, call him." And then they didn't have cell phones then. Mm-hmm. And Mike showed up at the Falcons facility looking for him. And Hanny had to work, but Mike didn't care. He just wanted to go hang out with his bud.
That's classic.
Folks, I'm not sure if that sort of camaraderie could exist publicly today.
Oh, I don't think so.
No. The things that they did, and most of them were fun things. I'm not trying to make these guys sound like Babyface Nelson and John Dillinger or anything like that, but they just enjoyed having a good time with life, and they love people.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, they were the quintessential Irish people. Claibs, have a great day, man.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. We're gonna figure those dates out. We're gonna do that.
Yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun.
Thanks, Claibs.
One time, Hanny, the offensive line coach in Atlanta, and so their facility was in Suwanee, Georgia, and it was the building is up on the top of a hill, and then the practice field is like in a bowl. It goes down a hill, field, other sideline, and then up a hill, and on the other side, it's all fenced in, and on the other side is like a kinder care. And during training camp, I think it was
sometimes you can see where a story's going.
Bill Fralick, and Hanny wanted his players to be physical. You knew that, right? When the offensive line for Hanifan played, they were physical, and when he got there, they weren't. So this was like the first year that he's their offensive line coach, and so the kids are on recess and they're watching training camp through the fence, and Bill Fralick just levels a defensive lineman, and Hanny grabs him by his collar and he says, "That's the way to knock his blank and blank off." And all these kids go,
That's amazing.
And the teacher says, okay, kids, let's go in now.
Claibs gave us a lot to work with there. One of my, I didn't need to touch on this one. Your favorite things from The Godfather. Wilson, I don't know. You need to turn that microphone on. I don't know if we've shown you how to do that yet. You might not be able to. You might not be able to turn it on. If you can, go to channel 2 and then turn it on. Wilson says he's never seen The Godfather, and I need to excoriate him for that. But also, I need to talk about how because my answer is my favorite moment in The Godfather is, but I don't know if that's my favorite moment in The Godfather duology, because I don't recognize the trilogy.
Okay.
Because man, there's something about the scene in Godfather 2 where Vito kills Fanucci and then breaks the gun up, and he's tracking him through the parade on the catwalks. There's also something about Godfather 2 that when you grow up like in the 90s or after, like I did, Wilson, if you ever watch the movies correctly, this will happen to you too, where that Robert De Niro is young Vito, but you don't, in your brain, you don't know how young Robert De Niro is supposed to look, because you grew up and the first thing you saw Robert De Niro in was Meet the Parents. And so that's what Robert De Niro is in your head. And then you're 20 and you're seeing young Robert De Niro playing young Vito, and it doesn't compute in your brain. But then there's like one scene that hits you where he looks at the camera and you're like, oh my God, that's young Robert De Niro. So like Godfather 2 with the De Niro stuff is so freaking incredible. I actually do not like a lot of the Michael stuff as much, but the flashback stuff is so good in Godfather 2. God, I love that freaking movie. You've never seen Godfather, Wilson? Well,
I started watching Goodfellas a few weeks ago, but I'm only like 40 minutes in.
I'm sorry. It's a movie, Wilson. Why is it taking you weeks to watch a movie?
Actually, it's taken over 2 years to watch that movie.
Oh wow.
Because one of my old coworkers, like, she recommended me a crap ton of old movies, and Goodfellas was on that list. Yeah. Are you only watching it in 20-minute increments because you start watching a different show? Like, I watched it through the first 40 minutes, and I got to like the wedding scene in Goodfellas, and then I just
and you stopped.
Yeah, it was good. Like the first 40 minutes was good. It's like, but like I haven't resumed watching it.
How do you stop? How do you stop watching Goodfellas? How do you stop at the wedding scene? How is that the scene? You're just like, you know what? Today seems like a good moment to calm down a little bit.
Well, I was planning to go watching like 5 increments through 3 days.
You can't watch a movie in 5 increments across 3 days, Wilson. It was built to be watched within the 90 minutes, 2-hour window, because everything has to happen. The moment, the emotion, the tension, it all has to build and rise and then fall and crest again, all within the 2 hours, or else your body and your emotion doesn't go up and down the way it's supposed to. You're not getting the movie, Wilson.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So here's what you do. How old are you?
25.
So you're 25. Okay. So after all the games are over, after all the West Coast games are over at midnight, get yourself some popcorn, get yourself a water or a soda or whatever. At 12:15, 12:30, watch a 90-minute movie and just go. That's what I used to do when I was your age. That's a good time to just kind of decompress after the games and just watch a movie.
Well, the problem is I've gotten really old now, so I go to sleep at like 10:30, 11 p.m. So I don't even watch the West Coast games either.
You can't claim that you're old and then also while being 25, and then also not be able to sit through and watch movies. Old people are great at sitting through and watch movies. That's all they had to do for like 80 years.
Well, I can sit through and watch, like, I just started watching Ballers on Netflix. I'm already through like season 3 already, so I can run through that.
Are you telling me right now that you watched 2+ hours of Ballers consecutively?
Yeah, not consecutively, but like I ran through them in like 5 episodes in one night before.
There you
go. Baller episodes is 40 minutes?
Like 30, 40 minutes.
And you went through 8 episodes?
No, 5. Like,
okay, so 5 episodes.
So like
that's 2.5 hours. Okay,
so like 7 to like 9 p.m.
Let's just finish up Goodfellas.
That's 2.5. Yeah, that's 2.5 hours. Can you please just watch Goodfellas in one shot, please? Like, this is this is, I have like a tick in my chest right now. This is very uncomfortable for me knowing that you watch movies like this.
Well, and while you're doing it, make sure that you also subscribe to our YouTube page and like this video. If you haven't already, go to sportshubstl.com and sign up for the Hub newsletter sent to your inbox twice a week. And anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, you'll be the first to know about St. Louis Sports Hub events and merchandise, get exclusive content and prize opportunities and more. And while you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com. Blues in action tonight. They take on Utah in their season finale, their regular season finale. And the Blues need a win. And let's hope they do that, because Matthew doesn't want his heart ripped out.
Yeah, that's true. I also don't want Thursday just to like happen, because that's gonna suck. Because if let's say they go to overtime tonight and lose, so they get like 1 point and everything gets really complicated again. And then we just have to sit there and wait until Thursday night happens, because the NHL for some reason doesn't have all game 82s being played, not let alone at the same time, but not even on the same day is inexcusable. I'm very mad about it. I'm bothered by it. And yeah, so tomorrow just could be the worst day in a long time for Blues fans, just because what are we supposed to do all day tomorrow if you're just sitting there wondering what the hell's about to happen, because the Flames still have game 82. I think, again, to Claibs' point, I think they come out and take care of business tonight against Utah, and then we don't have to worry about this. But if they take the 1 point, let's say they take 1 point tonight and they lose in overtime, they're 3 points ahead, and Calgary Flames could still lose a game in overtime and tie things up. But you would win that one because they would only potentially tie you in regulation wins. You'd have ROW solidified. So like there's all these crazy things where you can the Blues can still lose in overtime tonight and still make the playoffs with the Flames winning both of their game, with the Flames winning one of their games. So there's a lot of crazy things to happen. I don't want to deal with it.
Just
make
win,
it
baby.
simple. Just win, baby.
Yeah.
God.
I was talking to somebody this morning who was with the 2000 Bears. Do you remember that? So the Rams on Christmas Eve, they need to win and they need Detroit to lose to make the playoffs. And the Rams go into New Orleans, and Kurt Warner gets hurt, concussion, and Trent Green leads them to a victory in New Orleans. And now the Rams need the Bears, who are playing at the same time, to beat Detroit. And as the Rams are standing on the field, they watch the Bears kick the game-winning field goal, which puts the Rams in the playoffs. And you're totally your playoff fate is in somebody else's hands. It's a very uncomfortable but a very exhilarating at the same time feeling.
Yeah, and for me, I go back to game day 162 in 2011.
Yeah, that
maybe
was awesome.
Maybe one of the greatest days of regular season sports, not just regular season Major League Baseball, regular season sports in my lifetime. Because the fact that you can, we don't remember as sports fans, we don't remember a lot of regular season games that our teams aren't involved in, and so the fact that I have a specific memory of watching the Rays game. Yeah. I remember watching a Rays game from 2011, 14 years later. That says something about the magic you can have when you have all these things happening at the exact same time. So it just throws me off why the NHL would just kind of bumble this one. It's little things like that when leagues just seems to just why are you sticking the stick in your own tire? Like why are you tripping yourself up?
And baseball learned from that, and that's why every game is played on Sunday afternoon at the same time now.
Yeah, it's the best.
Right?
It's awesome.
The best. And that's why the NFL has done what they've done with their Sunday afternoon schedule in Week 18 too. It just makes sense. I'm with you. I have no idea why the NHL would not want everything happening at once. And by the way, the NBA, the finale of the NBA season, Sunday afternoon, was fantastic too.
Absolutely. And before we move on here, talking about the Blues, we got the update yesterday from Montgomery. It wasn't really an update about Dylan Holloway. Right. He was out on the ice, but essentially no confirmation that it's progression, but essentially this isn't like a progression they didn't expect. Him being on the ice, doing a very minimal amount of work, doesn't mean he's going to be skating with the team anytime soon. He's still week to week. Still kind of seems like they would have to make a deep playoff run for him to get back involved. Just not the update you wanted to see about Dylan Holloway yesterday.
No, and we knew what Colton Parayko's injury was, right? Because they told us it was knee surgery. We still don't know what Dylan Holloway's injury is, but if it's this serious, that we've gone this long, a couple of weeks, and he's not even close to getting back on the ice, I have to be really concerned if I'm the Blues, really cautious about him. He's only 23 years old, and I don't know that he's ever had to deal with an injury like this. It's one thing to have a veteran like Braden Shen going with a torn adductor muscle and playing in the playoffs with that, or last year, it was 2 years ago, I guess it was Matthew Tkachuk playing with a broken sternum in the playoffs. I don't want a 23-year-old that's never had to deal with severe injuries before telling me, okay, I'm good to go, because I think there's a real concern that he could hurt himself even further. Yeah,
it hasn't been anything rigorous, quote unquote, like even close to being ready to get back on the ice with us. Yeah. That's pretty definitive. That we're talking Western Conference Finals as a realistic timeline for him to maybe rejoin the team.
So would you be inclined, with that being the case, with the lines as they're set up tonight, and let me just double check and make sure that the lines are what they were yesterday, but at the end of the day, would you put Bolduc up on the second line, or do you like the balance that's displayed with Bolduc being on the third line?
So I'm looking at Rutherford.
I would keep him on the third line.
Yeah, Rutherford tweeted out the morning skate lineup, and Bolduc
right wing on the third line.
Yes, right wing on the third line. Sorry, took me a second. I was like, I couldn't find him for a second. Right wing on the third line with Matthew Joseph and Oscar Sundqvist. I like that because I think about I'm stuck in my I like the Ken Hitchcock pairings mindset, and I like the idea of getting guys like Joseph and Sundquist, who and because none of those guys are necessarily the fastest, so you slow things down a little bit, but you have Sonny who can open things up as the veteran, Joseph who's just kind of throw his body around willy nilly, and then you have Bolduc doing the skill stuff. So you just get everyone in front of the net and kind of bully teams around. I like that for the third line, especially in a game like Utah, in this final game where you're gonna probably have to muck things up a little bit. It's not going to be easy. Just Claibs' point. These games are never easy when a team has a chance to spoil thing. We have who was it in the chat? Samuel Howe. Was Samuel Howe? He said it. Somebody saying the Yotes always get them. Obviously they're not the Yotes anymore.
500 teams against the Yotes over the last 3 or 4 years.
Chad Harrington, the fan of me says the Blues are going to win, but the Yotes always seem to beat them. So when you add in those factors, I like having that tough third line. The switch would be second line right now is Shen, Kyrou, Snuggerud, Thomas, Buchnevich's Neighbors is the top line. So you want Bolduc up. Would you then say Shen down with Sonny and Joseph and just go with a youth line for the second line?
I would keep it the way it is. I like it the way it is.
Okay.
And I think the X factor tonight, as it should be, is going to be your top line. I think Neighbors and Buchnevich are going to be the keys for the Blues offensively in this game. But don't dismiss the ability of the Blues defense to score. Blues with the second highest scoring defense in the league, and with Parayko back, it's Fowler, Parayko, Falk, Broberg is back in there, and Leddy and Suter. I would not be surprised if the Blues defense carried the night tonight.
Samuel Howe says, are the Blues in their cup window shut him down this year? That's also could be Ben. It might be hard for the Blues to get to the Western Conference Finals without Holloway, and so I'm with everyone else. At this point, you make the playoffs after everything that happened this season, where we were at the beginning of the season. It's house money. That's just bottom line. It's house money, and I'm okay with. I know we get a lot of the championship or bust kind of stuff, but at this point, it's house money.
This team was not built to win a Stanley Cup. And a couple of weeks ago, during the midst, I think the winning streak was at 11, and we had Doug Armstrong on the TV show, and I tried to make the comparison between 2019 and this year. And the line was, I don't want to rain on your parade, but no. And that team, obviously, when you go get O'Reilly and bring Perron back, and you've got you get Bozak, and you've got Petro and Bouwmeester and Gunnarsson, and you've just got a veteran group. That team was built to win a Stanley Cup. This team was built to make the playoffs. There isn't the expectation of this team winning a Stanley Cup. Man, you look at Dallas. They're loaded, and it's hard for me to imagine that this particular Blues team could go head-to-head for 7 games with the Stars without Dylan Holloway, by the way.
I think that, to your point, the Blues could look like this Winnipeg team next year, but they're not. They're not that level this year. No. They'll have a lot more scoring punch than they will, but just in the speed, size, like just that combination that the Jets brought this year, the Blues can be that next year with the added scoring punch of Kyrou, Snuggerud, Buchnevich, so on and so forth. So they can be that next year, but I just think the growth of these young guys, that's the difference. That's the difference a year will make.
And getting playoff experience will be really valuable to these young guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And fortunately for Holloway, he's already played in a Stanley Cup final, so he knows what to do. But people like Kyrou, people like Neighbors.
Wait, a young guy like him played in a Stanley Cup final? Why would a team let him walk?
It's crazy. It didn't have much of an opportunity. But Buchnevich has never really played in these high-intensity games. So Buchnevich, Snuggerud, Neighbors, Kyrou, Bolduc, Toropchenko, these guys have never played with the intensity that they'll have to play with tonight. The entire defense has, by the way. Fowler's gone to a conference finals. He might have even been to a final. No, I think just conference finals with Anaheim. Parayko in a finals. Falk has played deep into the playoffs. Broby's played in the finals. Suter has played deep into the playoffs. He's never won a Stanley Cup. And then Leddy obviously has a couple of Stanley Cup championship rings. That my only concern about next year when you talk about it is the age of Fowler, Falk, Suter, Leddy.
Yeah, it's a little bit problematic, and there's not a ton of defense coming up from
No.
the youth side. It's pretty much all forwards and maybe a goaltender. So yeah, you got to work on the youth from the defense, and that's why guys like that's why Broberg was obviously such a huge coup. Parayko stepping into his level has been huge. Unfortunately, Perunovic didn't work out. And you've let some other
Joseph.
Yeah, you let some other younger defenders walk in the past few years who did pan out with other teams. So yeah, that's kind of the one thing you got to work out. Luckily, you only have to fill 6 spots there.
Yeah,
instead of 12. So that's easier.
That makes a difference. Yeah. All right, we need you to know about baseball season being underway and being able to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Really nothing like it. Here's what you do. It's like your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just pick 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Do that, and you'll have the opportunity to win big money with Pick 6 on DraftKings. So let's take a look tonight at what you got going on. Is Shohei Ohtani going to hit another home run? He's going against Colorado, so you'd think so. Colorado has the worst earned run average in all of baseball from a team standpoint. Does Ohtani hit a home run? Let's say, yeah, he does. And then let's take a look at your St. Louis Cardinals, shall we? Are the Cardinals going to get a home run tonight against the Houston Astros? Well, there are some possibilities. Maybe Jordan Walker hits another home run. Yeah, I don't know. But maybe Nolan Arenado has hit one of those streaks where he's going to hit a bunch of home runs. Yeah, you don't know. But we can pick one out. And you know what we'll do is we've already got Ohtani, and that's a roll of the dice. I am going to go with who's my Cardinal to go with? I'll go with Arenado. I'll go with him to hit a home run too. And it's that simple. Just pick 6. It's available in most states. You can pick up to 6, by the way. That's why it's called Pick 6. And you can earn big money. You can do it in California. You can do it in Texas. You can do it in Georgia. You can do it in Missouri and more. All you need to do is download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use the promo code STL Sports and cash in on your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly or on just a $5 entry. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty fun. You'll love it. It's DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. That is fun, and we'll have a good time.
We're talking about taking some gambles. We're talking about some tweets yesterday that got big reactions. So, Randy, one thing that got brought up yesterday within the Sports Hub STL umbrella was Joe Roderick, and we were talking food yesterday, as we are wont to do.
Oh, always a hot take with Joe.
Always want to do with the food takes. And Joe Roderick, and specifically we were talking about Uncrustables. Are you familiar with the Uncrustables?
I am. Yeah.
Do you enjoy the Uncrustables?
Yes.
Okay. And we were talking about different ways to prepare them. I would argue that toasting them makes them delicious. Joe Roderick, and then we got into bigger conversations about peanut butter and jelly overall.
Yes.
And Joe Roderick says his thing is that in a peanut butter and jelly, he will put Doritos. Now, here's the thing.
Okay.
I immediately lashed back at such a proposition, and then it hit me because I know what the flavor palette he's going for is. Because think about it this way: bread, we got our grain, a cracker, jam of some kind, we got our fruit.
Sure.
We have peanut butter, nuts. All right.
Protein.
Keeps on rolling. And we got cheese.
Dairy.
It's a charcuterie board.
Oh.
In a sandwich. You got your cracker, your fruit, your cheese, and your nuts.
Oh, interesting.
It's like one of those little mini snackers for energy thing. Okay. You get some grapes, you get some nuts, you get a little grain, and you get a little cheese. That's what Joe's going for. I think it's a little odd. Peanut butter and jelly with nacho cheese Doritos in the middle.
Do not like Doritos at all. Doesn't matter what flavor. I'm not a Doritos guy.
Are you any kind of cheesy chip? Cheez-Its, Cheetos.
I'll do Cheez-Its. I'll do crunchy Cheetos.
Cheddar Ruffles with sour cream and onion?
Probably not. No.
Okay. All right.
I'm pretty much the standard potato chip guy. I do like Fritos. But Fritos would be an interesting, the corn chip on that.
Yeah, same house as not Fritos in there.
I don't think I would put it on my peanut butter and jelly.
Is Joe Roderick? Joe, are you
No.
here?
I think he's over in the office.
Damn
it. Here he is. There's Joe Roderick.
Why not Fritos on a peanut butter and jelly? Here is as Joe Roderick is now being handed the mic from Wilson behind the scenes here.
Is it a crunch thing or is it a flavor thing?
The flavor thing is good. The crunch thing helps, but the flavor of the nacho cheese Doritos is what makes it. I can walk across the street tomorrow and I can make these and we can do them on the show.
Well, it's funny that you said that because
I don't like Doritos.
My significant other heard.
I can grab a few different types of chips and we can try it out.
My significant other heard conversations like this, and she sent me with a thing today that we might have to try. And these are a chocolate bar with bacon bits and potato chips in it.
They make Reese's cups with potato chips in it.
They do.
It's called Hammond's Pigs and Taters, and it's milk chocolate with imitation bacon bits and potato chips. And this was purchased for me entirely because of the tangential mess that this show becomes after about 10:48.
Thank you, Rachel. By the way,
try this.
Have you ever had chocolate covered bacon?
I don't think I've had chocolate covered bacon. No.
If done right, is unbelievably great.
I've had candied bacon.
Yeah,
have you had the cinnamon toast crunch bacon? Yeah. The cinnamon toast crunch bacon.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I gotta ask: is this like is cinnamon?
No, it is. You can
toast making this is like Kellogg. Is the brand making this, or is this like a thing that we're doing on TikTok? Or
probably coated, right? Bacon.
It is coated, yes, with the cinnamon toast crunch.
Yeah, is great. Bacon is great. It's worth a try.
Yeah, it's whatever Blackwell or whatever bacon brand they combined with cinnamon toast crunch, so it is branded by both. Yes.
One time I was down at the Oktoberfest in St. Charles, and they had some chocolate covered bacon. It was absolutely delicious. So. It's worth a try. So I'm not averse to trying some outside the box things. How about peanut butter and banana sandwich?
That's
awesome, isn't it?
That is
the king Elvis. Matthew's not having a great reaction to this. The pigs and this is so it's Hammond's Pigs and Taters, milk chocolate with imitation bacon bits and potato chips. Maybe what's hurting you is the imitation.
The bacon.
It really this really hurts that we don't have the pregnant woman on.
Oh yeah, right.
On the stage right now to try these ridiculous foods.
The bacon like savoriness really throws you off. I was not that. It's not bad, but it's just it's not working for me. It's flavors are like nothing's meshing. It's all just like against. It's just everything like all the flavors are there. But nothing's melding together. Joe, you gotta try.
Toss me one.
I think salt and chocolate together are good.
It usually is. But this one, it's just like there's like
the smell test.
Yeah, it immediately jumps you, doesn't it?
I think it might be more the.
I do love the branding though. The fact that it's like
pigs and taters.
I like that. Pigs and taters. I like that.
I'm trying to figure out the power of something is overpowering
it's
there, right?
Bacon, yeah.
Is it the bacon?
Because like the best part about fats is what makes things taste good. That's why we like butter. So like the fatty part of the bacon is what makes bacon awesome. And unfortunately, like that fatty, like salty savoriness is not something I want with chocolate. I want the saltiness, but like the fatty, like savory is not what I want with chocolate. And so it's throwing me off.
There's a big difference between bacon and bacon bits.
That's true.
And this is
the big difference.
And they are. Bacon bits are powerful.
They are,
yeah.
yes.
And that's because they're so
pack
tiny.
a lot of flavor.
Yeah. So maybe that's what we're talking about here.
Number one Blues fan says I put potato chips on sandwiches sometimes. Literally, that is very basic. You want a little crunch on your sandwich. You're 8 years old. You don't know how to use the frying pan yet you don't know how to, crisp up some bread yet. You need a little crunch on your sandwich. Listen, that's the reason I firmly believe why kids put chips on their sandwiches is because like at lunchtime, your mom's not sending you with a toasted sandwich and there's nothing there at school to toast it. Even if she does send you with a toasted though, it's going to get a little soggy. It's going to loosen up in the thing. So you want a little bit of that bite that you want from a toasted sandwich at school. Got to throw the Lay's on it. I think that's a go-to move.
So we got some serious questions here. Number one, Let's Turn 2 says, dip that in a Frosty. Are you guys fries in the Frosty?
I'm not
either.
I'm sorry, Wilson. When you say that, I need to clarify things. Have you never heard of a Frosty, or have you never heard of dipping a fry in it?
Dip down in a fry in a Frosty.
What happened the first time? Where did we lose you on the first explanation of this?
Number one Blues fan, do you taste the chips Yeah, I think the chips are more of the crunch though in this.
Yeah,
and
that's
well,
the
depending on what
bacon
if you do the nacho cheese Doritos, you do get the strong flavor of that. If you do just regular, Randy, I'll make just regular Lay's potato chips and a PB&J. The saltiness with that, I think, is a nice combo.
Salt and dark chocolate is great.
Can I ask what? Because what groupie to Cheech and Chong was babysitting you that you got the idea to do this in the first place? Because I gotta wonder the genesis of Joe Roderick is sitting there. He's mashing peanut butter and jellies for lunch or whatever from his parents make him. But what made you think I'm combining these two things together? What the hell happened? Did you take a bonk on the head?
I'll tell you first. We've got multiple people on the chat who do this. Number one Blues fans. I put potato chips on sandwiches sometimes.
I know. I get I'm specifically asking about why you decided to put nacho cheese chips on a peanut butter and jelly. It's just because
they were there.
They were there. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all it was. Is they were there, and you were like, I need to get these. You can't just eat them separate from each other.
No.
How about this one? Our buddy Sarah Daly, and Sarah, thanks for being with us. Our colleague here at Sports Hub STL. Chips on turkey or a cold cut? Not sure about PB&J. Fan of the crunch.
Yes.
LOL.
Barbecue chips on a turkey sandwich.
Yes, I'm 100% here on chips on a sandwich, on a regular sandwich. I get it. Our entire argument, like last week, was that, in my opinion, if you're not spending like 30 minutes and using like 2 pans to cook your sandwich,
that's fine too.
You're just not putting the effort into it. So I like that people are figuring out more ways to do things. It's just that at no point in my childhood, and I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for like every day for like 7 to 8 solid years until I switched to a classic salami sandwich. And I just never would have had the thought process of combining my Doritos with my PB&J.
Randy, peanut butter and bologna sandwich.
Never even considered it.
Okay.
So I used to do fried bologna as a kid. You know, you guys, and we had bologna when I was a kid. Did you guys have bologna as a kid?
Yes,
I did. But yeah, fried bologna was so much
fried
better.
bologna was great. By the way, Emmett Smith fan, crunchy Cheetos on a PB&J as a kid was the absolute best. Thank you, Emmett Smith fan.
Man, you guys had some refined palates as children, because the idea of putting cheese in with a PB&J, I wouldn't have thought of it. But now again, as I said, Joe, it's a charcuterie flavor palette, and as an adult now, I love me some charcuterie, and so I get it. I understand it.
A charcuterie is basically an adult Lunchable.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I never got Lunchables as a kid, and so now I understand why I keep buying myself little charcuterie boards.
Number one Blues fan, peanut butter and any chip is sketch.
Peanut butter and any chip. Okay, I feel kind of vindicated, because when I was a kid, I thought I was going to get made fun of because I would dip my Lay's potato chips in ketchup. And I caught some hell for that in grade school. It was
really
a rough life there. But to Blues fan, I cannot. Are you dipping? Are you using peanut butter as a dip for any kind of chip? Have you ever done that? No. Okay, good. That would be kind of crazy.
I haven't either. Nick Gilbert, this is an interesting one with as advanced as Frito-Lay is. He says Doritos needs an unseasoned chip. Thoughts? Nick, I think that's a great idea.
No, they have those.
That's called a tortilla chip.
Called a tortilla chip.
Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. Is there a Dorito though? A Dorito. They could call it.
I feel like they've tried to do that.
Tortilla chips, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
R&D and Frito-Lay is so ridiculous. They're trying everything on a chip.
I'll be honest. When this topic came up yesterday, there was a comment that honestly made me very angry, and that was Domesticated Gamblers responded to the tweet and said, "Yeah, it's fantastic with nacho cheese," and that made me mad, because you would never do this with a Cool Ranch Dorito, would you?
Well, Cool Ranch Doritos are just hot garbage. So
okay, and my point was
unless they want to sponsor Sports Hub STL,
there you go.
In that case, I will eat a bag of them every single show.
My point to Domesticated Gamblers was, yeah, of course it was nacho cheese. Joe's not a serial killer, because anything other than nacho cheese, like, I can understand the thought process that gets you.
I won't allow Cool Ranch Doritos in my house.
Cool Ranch Doritos being put on a sandwich would be. I mean, that's a kid torturing a squirrel, kind of like, lock him up, get him in juvie now.
Speaking of the kid torturing the squirrel and
Why is that
Matthew's belief? No, here, this is Ellipsis 150, who I agree with, by the way. Okay, the older I get, the more I think that ketchup is such a phenomenal condiment. It's the perfect balance between sweet with some tang. It's sweet, but not overly sweet. For my entire life, I've put ketchup on hot dogs.
Yeah, see, I don't get this whole Chicago, New York thing. Like ketchup's for babies. Like there's one Chicago restaurant, like their entire branding is around, you do not ask for ketchup. We don't sell ketchup. Are you a 6-year-old child? And I just don't get this idea that like ketchup masks the taste of a hot dog, but mustard enhances it. I have no problem. Yeah, I'll load up a hot dog with everything except the Chicago style, everything except the sports pepper. Yeah. I'll do that, but I'll also just do one regular ketchup and don't feel guilty about that at all. I just think that like McDonald's, for me, broke open the idea of how like the perfect combination of ketchup and mustard is the perfect condiment.
Hey, the perfect combination of ketchup and mayo is the special sauce. 2 all-beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. The special sauce is mayo and ketchup. It's yeah, and it's delicious. Hey, did you guys know that we're going to? I hope Matthew knows. We're going to be at St. Charles Kitchens and Baths on Thursday. We're going to be out there in St. Peter's, 330 Mid-Rivers Drive in St. Peter's. St. Charles Kitchens and Baths. Brooke, Matthew, and I will be there. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. And we hope you'll stop by out in St. Peter's from 10:02 until whenever. You think we'll hit the air at 10:02 that day?
We'll hit the air at 10 o'clock even, because that's when we go on the air on this show.
St. Charles Kitchens and Baths on Thursday, this coming Thursday, which would be the 17th. So we want to see you out there and join us for the Randy Karraker podcast featuring Brooke Grimsley and Matthew Rocchio. Anything else that we need to get in here before we depart for the day?
This could be Ben. Started out the day so great today. First chat he sent was a reference to Arrested Development. Absolute winner. And then he closes it off with this: ketchup is overrated. It takes away from the flavor of the meat. I disagree. Unless your argument is that most sauces take away from the flavors of meats. And then I'm really, but I'm gonna have a tough argument here, because mustard accentuates the taste of hot dog, but ketchup masks it. Doesn't sound logical to me that one is so perfect and the other is so wrong.
And here's the other thing, with all due respect to the hot dog, which I enjoy immensely, but a naked hot dog,
I you know what? I would rather have a naked hot dog with a nice toasted bun than a Chicago dog fully loaded.
Really?
The poppy seed bun is wrong. The chopped vegetables is wrong unless it's an onion. The sports peppers are wrong. Like the fact that you can only do mustard is wrong. Everything about a Chicago dog, except for the actual hot dog, is fantastic. I'll give them that. It's a fantastic hot dog, but they're doing everything around it incorrectly.
Woofies, I love you, and I think you're fantastic. But I would rather have a hot dog with ketchup on it than a naked dog. You talk about it masking the flavor of the meat. Sometimes it's not a bad thing to have a little bit of a little zing with ketchup on a hot dog. I like it.
Ooh, Sarah Daly, grilled cheese and ketchup, roasted chicken pieces on toasted bread with Alfredo sauce instead of mayo. I may or may not have worked at a sub shop when I was younger. Grilled cheese and ketchup. Now, see, I'm not a big tomato sauce. I'm not a big tomato soup kind of person. And so I've never really been big with the grilled cheese tomato soup combo that everyone loves. Grilled cheese with ketchup. I wish I was 7 years old so I could go back and try that again.
You can still try it now.
I know I can
at this age. You know, I am kind of a jerk for this, because I say I would never put ketchup on eggs, right? But I put salsa on eggs, on scrambled eggs. So what's the difference, right?
There's a difference between salsa and ketchup.
I'm glad you said that.
There's a difference between salsa and ketchup. This Ben says, hot dog with cheese and onions. Mustard sucks too. Hot dog. I've never liked cheese on my hot dog. I as a kid, there was nothing. This is really privileged, but it's true. One of my biggest hurdles in life as a child was when I would be at a friend's house and their mom or dad would be like, guys, we're making lunch. We're going to do hot dogs. And I'd be like, let's go. Love a hot dog. And then I'd get there and they'd be like, it's the cheese-filled one. I'd be like, get this trash away from me.
Cheese-filled hot dogs are the worst.
They're the worst.
Yeah,
they suck.
It's gross.
They're disgusting. I don't know how people like them. And so maybe I just got introduced to the idea of hot dogs with cheese in the wrong concept, because those cheese-filled hot dogs growing up were the worst.
Do you remember Einstein's?
Oh my God.
I think there might still be an Einstein's bagels around. the Einstein's Bagel Dog was
Einstein's Bagel store.
outstanding.
Yeah. I don't know if they sold the bagel
and
dog.
Schwann's, and I think Schwann's is out of business now. They changed their name and now they've gone out of business. But Schwann's frozen food used to have great bagel dogs too. I haven't seen. They used to be like at Sam's and Costco. I haven't seen bagel dogs in a while, so you need to get in touch with us. Hey, the Battlehawks are back in action this weekend, and Battlehawks fans, you need to be sure that you catch Battlehawks Hub Weekly, available on Sports Hub STL with Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Strotter as they get you set for all Battlehawks action. Battlehawks coverage on Sports Hub STL is presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. With new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks boxes, you can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets. Plus, get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
This is why I trust Lee's, because look there, you got 2 different sauces. It looks to me like a honey mustard and a barbecue sauce. That's the proper way to go through life, completely and totally soused up, not in the way that people are thinking. I want to say, this could be Ben says barbecue sauce is better than ketchup. Yes, because there's these things in this world called spices, and we used to fight wars over them, and now you can find them in your cupboard. They're very cheap. You should buy as many of them as you can. And what you do, though, is when you take spices and add them to food, it makes the food better. Mm-hmm. So when you start with ketchup and you add a bunch of spices and make it barbecue sauce, it's going to be better. That's how spices work.
Okay. One more thing. You bring up spices, and I may have or may not have done it on this show. But next time you're going to have a steak, head on over to Chesterfield, go to the Smokehouse Market, go to their butcher shop, get a big old ribeye. If you like ribeye, get a big old, and it's a big old ribeye. This is a treat. This isn't an everyday item, okay? This is a treat because the meat is rather expensive, but worth it. So get one of their ribeyes and ask them how to prepare. But what they're going to do is say, okay, what you want to do with this ribeye is heat your skillet or heat your grill up to top heat, whatever it is, like 450, 500. Put some butter in a skillet with thyme. Melt the butter and then put the thyme in it, spread it out. And then put avocado and I like avocado oil on my ribeye and coat it with the secret seasoning from Smokehouse Market. Secret seasoning from Smokehouse Market. And once your skillet is hot with the butter and the thyme, make the ribeye in there. Put it down. I usually get it up to about 100, and I'm a medium well guy, so I get it like to 100 degrees, flip it in the skillet, get it up to 150, 155. Best steak I've ever had in or out of a restaurant, the ribeye from Smokehouse Market with their secret seasoning on a skillet. It's fantastic. So pro tip, and you're welcome.
Did you got some garlic in there with the thyme?
Their secret seasoning has a little bit of garlic.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
So,
that's fair.
Yeah,
all right,
so
fine.
we're good. Yeah, salt, pepper, garlic, everything. But it's a perfect blend over at the Smokehouse Market. Thanks to Claibs for joining us. Thanks to Wilson for being here as our technical guru today. Matthew in for Brooke, who just had a doctor's appointment today. She is pregnant after all, has doctor's appointment, but Brooke will be back with us tomorrow, and then she'll be at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath on Thursday with us as well.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we are going to have to get used to a little bit without Brooke because, well, she's going to have to.
She's going to have a baby.
Yeah, and then and of course, the plan is that Ari's going to step into host, and Brooke's going to take a couple weeks off. So we get a new host, and Ari's going to be in. So we'll have we'll get
Ari is the baby.
Yeah, is he not coming into host? Have I been lied to? What the heck? Come on now,
he'll
get working, kiddo. This is America.
So, but as Claibs said, Claibs will be in. Matthew will be in. We'll have multiple rotating guests while Brooke is out on her maternity leave, and then, but she's not having the baby until May 24th, so we're good. Hey, we want you to have a great Taco Tuesday. Don't forget to pay your taxes today. Did you already pay your taxes?
Tuesday, I did.
Good job. So if you haven't yet, do it because you're in America, and for whatever reason, it's April 15th that we pay our taxes.
Go fix those potholes because I'm paying taxes for something, right?
Oh, yeah, have a new mayor.
No, okay.
Is your new mayor's in place, right?
She is, yes.
Those potholes should be taken care of today.
Yeah, I'm in the county right now, and fix those potholes too, please.
Yeah. For me too.
There you go.
Olive and Creve Coeur, please.
Yes,
yes. Get her done. All right, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow, Hump Day, at 10:02.
At 10 o'clock.